Welcome to our Athletes for Arizona series of athlete to athlete conversations. Today we have our first guest for our Women's History Month series where we are highlighting female athletes in Arizona. Today we are speaking with University of Arizona student athlete Diana Ramos. Diana, would you introduce yourself, share where you're from, and a little bit about your sports experience?
Yeah, of course. Well, as you said, my name is Diana Ramos. I'm a student athlete at the University of Arizona, but I'm actually from Venezuela. I was recruited back in 2019. Um, and yeah, so my experience at Arizona has been pretty great. I have incredible teammates, and at the beginning, it was only women's in my team, in the high jump team. That's my event. And yeah, it's just been like really nice to have that support and just to be able to participate in college athletics and just live this incredible 4 years just experience.
Wow, that's amazing. So, from your experience, what is your view of the landscape of women's sports in Arizona? And how does that compare to women's sports from where you grew up in Venezuela?
I think that is a big difference just because in the US we have the Title IX, which is the amazing title that gave women the opportunity to do sports and be equally treated as men with men. But I will say one of the main difference is the support. Back home, I really didn't have like women actually doing this sport. Most of my teams were all men. I was training with like 9 men, and I was the only girl in the team. So it's definitely like you don't have anyone to have the girls talk, or just that personal approach. And then here in Arizona, I'm able to have this wonderful group of like women high jumpers and being able to connect like not only through the sport but also personally. So I think that's one of the main difference. I feel like back home we don't have like as many female athletes. I don't want to count, but I feel like at least in track and field in the high jump event, there were no many of us. So I think that's the main difference. And then of course we have the cultural remarks that and the language barrier, which kind of make some of the differences. Especially with like the track and field vocabulary. I kind of knew English, but then I didn't know the track and field English vocabulary, which I think is kind of funny.
Mhm.
But yeah, I will say like those were the main remarks, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think it's amazing because so many young girls growing up, they get into their sport because maybe of female athlete role models. And for you, with that lacking, I'm just so interested to know what was it about high jump that attracted you in the first place?
Well, so before track, I want to put in quote the girl sports. I was in rhythm gymnastics. And I did that
Oh,
for like 7 years. Like I started when I was
hmm
6 to 7 years old, and I retired from that sport when I was almost 15. So I grew up with
wow.
the beauty of the sport. Gymnastics is it's kind of like ballet, which is like
Yeah.
you need to be really strong, but also you need to be like flawless. So doing amazing things by looking pretty, like you're not in pain or you're not like hitting like a element or something. So that was my first sprinkle of sports, to say it like that. And then
hmm
when I went to track, it was just totally different. Like I have like men as my teammates, which in gymnastic I didn't have. Um, so yeah, I think it's just been really nice to go to high jump and kind of do gymnastics as well. Because as you know, high jump, you need to have the flexibility, but also the strength. And I will say
hmm
the thing that I love the most about high jump is kind of like the aesthetic of it looks so pretty and it looks so flawless and like it's like beautiful. So being able to jump, my mark is 177 and just look so effortless and pretty, kind of like, it's just a really nice sport.
Wow, I can totally see the correlation now because I do think high jump is very graceful and that approach is there's a lot of similarities there.
No, it's
So
very
speaking of now, Yeah. So now being in Arizona, being on a team where, as you said, even in the beginning, it was all female, I'm just curious to know what are some of the ways you empower women around you? And are there ways that women have empowered you?
Yes. Well, having a group of only like women and my coach is a man. Um,
Mhm.
I feel like the way I empower like women on my team is first of all like validation and like support. Just knowing that there's not many of us doing the sport, but it's us. So like I try to
Mhm.
really just like try to be as real model as possible. So just support them, validate them in anything we need. Not only with the girls in the high jump team, but also with all track and field with cross country girls, the long jumpers. So I think validation is what I try to like do to empower them. And then because I do that, I feel like I receive the same things back. Like me and my teammates were really competitive, but it's just this way of support that it led us to just be better. Like we were last year, like the second pageant group in the nation, and that just doesn't happen like
Wow.
from one day to another. Like this was an effort for women doing what we like, but like also supporting and be competitive to each other. So yes, that's totally my answer.
I love that. It's about building each other up and, like you said, positive validation is so important. So now taking like a big picture view, what does gender equity in sports mean to you?
Well, if we go to the official translation or official meaning, for me, gender equity is just again that validation of like women and men have the right to do what they want to do in an equal manner. So here in Arizona, I feel really validated. Like we do celebrate the Title IX. In past years, we have done like these big events where we just talk about it and how women are part of this ecosystem, the world, how we want to like call it out. Um, but yeah, I think that is what is for me. Just validating men and women in sports and treat them similar. I don't want to say similar. I want to redo that.
Mhm,
It's not similar. For me, is to validate men and women on the same terms. What is for them, it is for us
mhm.
as well. Because we are putting the same 20 hours a week of training. We're both doing the competition. We're both trying to do our best. So we should all be doing the same.
Mhm. Great answer. So, on that endeavor in the pursuit of gender equality, what are some hurdles that girls or women face in sports?
Hmm. I feel that one of the obstacles that women face in sports is the expectations and like not
Mhm,
being exposed. I feel like some people they just don't know that women's sports exist. I think
mhm,
we have some moments even last year with the March Madness that is happening now, but from last year, like people didn't know it was a also women's basketball March Madness. So
mm,
yeah, it's just kind of events. It's like how do you don't know this? Why we don't talk about it? That's the main question. So that's an obstacle feeling ignored for like the population. Like even your close friends, they might not even know that. Yeah, you're doing sports same as the men's as well. Um, so yeah, I feel like it's
mhm,
just this pose of not getting the credit that we deserve, or just seeing like men
mhm,
are doing more than we do, and that's why they get exposed in the best way. And then, um, yeah, I just think that's the main obstacle: not being validated or
mhm,
not being taken seriously. I think that's the main thing because as a woman, I my best mark is 177, and yeah, obviously men are gonna jump higher because that's just nature, but that doesn't mean I should not be taken seriously. For my sport, women's high
mhm,
jump shouldn't be taken seriously just because they're gonna jump a little bit higher. Um, So that's an obstacle for us to just be like, we're here and we're doing all the training, all the hours, eating well,
Mhm.
sleep, like, sacrificing so many things for then people to say, oh, but that's just women's sport. Like, no.
Yeah. So I hear you. Definitely like increasing the coverage and a lot of the attention and showing that women can do amazing things in sports too. So I would like to know, who are women in your life who inspire you?
Well, in the sports side, there are some high jumpers that have definitely inspired me. Blanca Blasic, she's a Croatian high jumper, and I just love her attitude and the way that she just enjoyed the sport and she was jumping for herself. And when I started doing high jump, she always been like my inspiration because I want to be able to remember those moments when I started doing it. Because when you get to college sports, there's obviously all these pressures, all the time consuming, and sometimes when I just feel like really overwhelmed, I just try to remember why in the first place I started doing the sport. And
Mhm.
the first thing that comes to my mind is that I just wanted to have fun. Like I wanted to, just go and practice and be outside, and I made friends. So that's what I just try to remember. Another person that is just more general is being my sister, my older sister. She's just,
Oh,
yeah, obviously my mom too, but my sister, she's just been that person that she just set the best example ever. Like I feel like everything I have done is just because she already built the path for me. Like I knew I
oh,
was going to college since I was like 10 because she did it.
oh,
And then she got her bachelor's and she got her master's. So I was like, okay, like I'm still behind. So, I have to get my bachelor and I have to get my master because my sister had it too. And I just feel like I kind of let her down for me not doing it when she already did it. So
mhm.
definitely my sister. She was also an athlete, but she didn't do college sports in the US. She stayed back home. But yeah, she's just one of those persons that just show me that I'm able to do whatever I want to do, and I can just get all the opportunities and do a well job. Because I'm a student, I'm
Wow.
an athlete, and I still care about like having time with my friend, having time for myself, or just living, a normal life, quote unquote. Because I don't
Mhm.
think I really have a normal life, but just have like a full life, full of like love, friends, doing the sport I like, doing the career that I want. So I feel like that aligns with the women that I have in my life because they're all successful, but they all have shown me that you can be successful, but the main thing that you need to be is being happy. So
Mhm. Wow, she sounds amazing and an incredible role model for you growing up.
yeah,
What
I don't
are yeah.
make other like everything I've done without like having my sister. It just wouldn't be as far.
Yeah, that's amazing. We all need people in our life like that. What
Yeah.
advice would you give to other female athletes in Arizona now that you've been through, an entire career of as a student athlete and adjusting to a new country and still competing at the highest level? I just wonder, what are some things that you learned that you would like to share and pass on?
Um, My biggest advice for, I would say, any girl in any sport, even if you're from Venezuela, Latin America, anywhere in the country, is to female student athlete, is to be brave. Just be brave with anything that you do. Because I feel there were moments that I was super scared to do things. Just like even making the decision to come to the United States and I'm gonna go to college, I'm gonna be a student athlete, I'm gonna jump. I have all these goals in my head. They were kind of like realistic, but also unrealistic for someone like from Venezuela. And I have a lot of like people not really believing that I'm actually gonna do it, but I just keep true to myself, and I was like, I'm just gonna do it, and we'll see what happens. And so being brave, I came here, I graduated, I did a whole college career in athletics in school, and it's just like just showing that when you're brave, like things really happen. Like when you know what you truly want to be, things just like kind of like show up to you. So I go, the resources were offered to me. I just needed to do the work. So be brave and do the work.
Wow, great advice. And you're definitely very brave for leaving your country that early. And also, I think at a time where it was COVID and just different restrictions and stuff like that, that's a whole nother challenge that
Yeah,
I
that's
know a lot
another
of people
obstacle.
didn't have to. So as we close this conversation, I just wanted to ask one last question. What organizations or resources, maybe even including books, do you recommend for empowering women?
Um, I don't know like many like international organizations, but I would recommend with in your college, your university, just look out for the places that can help you. Like for example, here at University of Arizona, we have like the Guerrero Center, which is like a center, kind of like it's for everybody, but it's more towards the Latino, Chicano students. So you can be able to go and find people that are kind of like you. Also, the SAC, which is the Student Athlete Advisory Committee. They're like super welcome with like female athletes, and you are able to express your voice. Um, from books, I'm currently reading this book called The Defining Decade, and I don't think it's towards women's, but I feel like it really is because it just talk about
Mhm.
things that you do in your 20s matter. Um, and I think a
Wow.
lot of women can kind of like get lost with things they want in life, especially, going through college, and especially for people like me that are international, so that you can get lost in your goals. So I feel like this will kind of give you a sense of direction and just responsibility of like every decision that you make in life is going to have an impact for you in the future. So it's better to learn in your 20s to take the decisions. So when you're a little bit older, things don't come down on you. An organization, of course, Athlete for Hope, it's been really nice to offer me the opportunity and tell my story. That's another way to empower women, being able to provide a platform for us to just speak with you, being able, like, we relate to each other in
Mhm.
athletics path. So yeah, I thought those were my recommendations.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing. I mean, it's even that book that you mentioned, it sounds like it's a reminder that every day matters and the choices that we make, like you said, in even in our 20s, they really do set up for the future. So, thank you so much for sharing your passion and your thoughts and everything with us today. And we look forward to having more conversations in the future. Thanks, Diana.
Thank you so much, and yeah, open to talk.